quorum being present, I call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome to the May 22nd, 2023 Acushnet Town Meeting. My name is Wes Dakin, and I'm your town moderator. I've been informed that the warrant has been properly executed in the spirit of service in accordance with our bylaws. I'd like to start by introducing the head table at the top of the stage, starting my immediate left.
Darren Klein, Town Council, KP Law.
J.D. Kelly, Town Administrator. Kevin Gaspar, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Bob Hingley, member of the Board of Selectmen.
David Wonar, Board of Selectmen.
Pam Labonte, Town Clerk.
John Hassett, Town Accountant.
Mike Boucher, Chairman of the Finance Committee.
Susan Delgado, Vice Chair, Finance Committee.
And now at the base of the stage, starting closest to me.
Eric McGlynn, Finance Committee. Bob Furr, Finance Committee. Eric Drew, Finance Committee.
Peter Benoit, Finance Committee. John Howcroft, School Committee.
Jennifer Downing, Chair of the School Committee.
Sarah Gomes, Vice Chair of the School Committee.
Ron Hood, School Committee.
Thank you, folks. I'd like to take a few minutes now to recognize one of the hardest working committees we have in this town. During the winter months, there were no harder working town officials than the members of the Finance Committee. They studied the requests of the department heads and asked the tough questions in accordance with their duty to prepare the budget for the following year. It should also be noted, as mandated in our town charter, Section 5, members shall serve without compensation and shall not hold any other public office in the town or serve on any other board, committee, or commission of the town, except in an advisory capacity. Further, the Finance Committee shall have the authority to investigate all areas of town government and all records required for the conduct of such investigations shall be made available to the committee. Accordingly, I've asked Dr. Michael Boucher, Chairman of the Finance Committee, to share with you an overview of their committee, their backgrounds, duties, and their commitment to achieving fair and just fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers of Acushnet. In the interest of time, no questions will be taken at this time, but Dr. Boucher will be available after our meeting resolves. Dr. Boucher?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to see such a good turnout tonight for tonight's meeting. Just a little background on myself. I grew up here in town, attended our public schools, have lived here most of my adult life, and have served on the FinCom for about 16 years and chaired the committee for the past 3 years. In business, I've worked in the healthcare industry for nearly 30 years. I would like to provide you with an overview of the role of the Finance Committee. Our committee consists of 9 members, and we all come from different business backgrounds from both the private and public sectors. Our committee, like others in town, is served on a volunteer basis without any form of compensation or benefits. We all care about our town, and this is our way of giving back. Serving on the FinCom can be challenging, but also gratifying, knowing that we can provide some valuable insight regarding fiscal responsibility based upon experience in our business and personal lives. The FinCom is essentially a fiscal watchdog that works collaboratively with the town administrator, finance department, and our board of selectmen to ensure that we can provide a balanced budget and continue to provide quality services to you, the residents. The budgetary process for the FinCom starts in early January, and we typically meet on a weekly basis until our annual town meeting tonight. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and some of the FinCom members attend other department meetings as needed. We invite the various town departments to present their budgets to us for the upcoming fiscal year, and there can be multiple versions of their budgets which get analyzed and adjusted if needed by the FinCom, Finance Department, Town Administrator, and Board of Selectmen. When we start the process, we have estimate projections regarding our revenue and expenditures, which become more clear as the state aid numbers and governor's budget comes in. It's an evolving process right up until tonight. This entire process is getting more and more challenging every year, particularly since the percentage we receive in state aid has traditionally lagged behind our fixed costs such as contractual obligations, insurances, utilities, and pensions, which have been negatively impacted by the high inflation which has affected our national economy over the past 2.5 years. For these reasons, the emphasis on conservative fiscal responsibility in our town is important, considering that our town has limited revenue sources. That being said, we are proud of the fact that unlike some other towns in the Commonwealth, we don't have to ask you, the residents, for a tax override to fund traditional expenses covered in the operational budget. I would like to thank my fellow FinCom members for volunteering their time away from their families, especially our Vice Chair sitting to my left, Sue Delgado, who is vital to the FinCom with her background as a CPA. I would also like to thank our Town Administrator and all the various town departments for the good work that they do. Lastly, I would like to thank our current Board of Selectmen for all the hard work, time, and effort they put in. The three gentlemen sitting to my right up here on stage put in a lot of work behind the scenes that goes unnoticed, and each have a unique skill set and work well together for the benefit of our town and especially you, the residents. Let's have a great night tonight with some good discussion in a civil manner, because even though we make recommendations, it's you folks sitting out here in the audience that have the biggest impact on what happens by exercising your right to vote tonight, participating in our small town government. Thank you again, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Dr. Boucher. We understand and appreciate the fact you all have busy, demanding lives, and we thank you for the privilege of your time. Open town meetings like this are the epitome of freedom of speech and democracy. Each and every one of you tonight will have the opportunity to question, comment, amend, modify, and ultimately approve or reject each article in this nearly $35 million budget and associated warrant articles. This is your meeting and your tax dollars. Your participation is not only encouraged, but it's your absolute right. Housekeeping items, please note that the center floor is reserved for registered voters in town and Acushnet department heads only. If you are not a registered voter in town, please move to the bleachers to the side. Each registered voter was presented with a yellow card upon verification of voting status, and those cards will be the only means of voting tonight when raised to be counted. Kindly silence all your cell phones so as not to disturb the meeting. Please note the location of the emergency exit nearest you in the unlikely event you need to evacuate the building. Restrooms are in the hallway to my right. Now I'll get into what I call process summary, and we'll get into the articles. I won't be reading every article verbatim, but will provide a summary of each. The full text is on the handouts provided to you when entering. If you would like to speak on an article, line up at the microphone. Non-residents will not be allowed to speak unless they are department heads, town employees, or a majority of the registered voters agree to let them speak. When recognized by the moderator, clearly state your name and town address before speaking. Excuse me. You have the absolute right to understand what you're voting on. Articles are written to comply with the law, and the full intent of the article may not be clear to you. Chances are there are others that feel the same way. Everyone here is entitled to question any aspect of an article, and we will address every question asked. Procedurally, all questions shall be directed through the moderator to maintain decorum and make efficient use of our time. Speak only to the motion at the moment. Rude or disrespectful speech will not be tolerated. Direct conversations between participants will only be allowed if it serves to answer important questions and is deemed to be beneficial to the meeting efficiency. Please remember there is a distinct difference between questions and answers and debates. Now let's get started. Article 1, to see if the town will accept the reports of its officers, boards, departments, committees, and commissions as printed in the 2022 annual report, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to accept the reports of its officers, boards, departments, committees, and commissions as printed in the annual report.
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion. Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 1, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 1 passes unanimously. Article 2, see if the town will raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of monies to fund deficit systems in various fiscal year 2023 accounts, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 2 be postponed indefinitely.
That? I heard a second, I believe. Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends to postpone this article indefinitely.
Any discussion from the floor? I can pass on to you that there are no deficit payments to be made, and that is why we are postponing it indefinitely. Any discussion further? Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 2, raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 2 passes unanimously. Article 3, to see if the town will raise and appropriate, transfer from free cash, or otherwise provide for a transfer from available funds of the total sum of $22,337.57 to pay bills from the prior fiscal years, or to take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. These expenses were incurred in the prior fiscal year, but the bills did not come to us until the current fiscal year. This will need an 80% approval rate from you folks to get paid. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $22,337.57 to pay bills from the prior fiscal years. Bill Trust, $3,238.91. Bristol County Retirement Board, $17,617.53. Amazon, $1,481.13 for a total of $22,337.57.
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Any discussion from the floor? Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 3, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 3 passes unanimously. Absent any objection, I will aggregate a number of articles now that are routine annual articles that enables the town to do business. They're Articles 4 through 10 inclusive. This is being done for the efficient use of our time. I propose we vote on them together. If you wish to discuss an article individually, raise your hand and state hold when I read that article. We will return to that article when all have been read. You do not need to identify yourself to hold an article, but be prepared to comment when we return to it. We will then vote on the consent agenda in its entirety. Under the consent agenda, annually recurring articles may be grouped together for passage. All of these appear each year in the warrant and include housekeeping items. I will now read Articles 4 through 10. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from the PEG Access and Cable Related Fund. That stands for the Public, Educational, and Governmental Programs. For the fiscal year 2024 expenses of public access as follows. Salary and wages, $90,000. General expenses, $100,000. A total of $190,000. This total sum be raised from cable franchise fees and cable-related revenues, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Article 5. See if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for state or federal grants and to expend any monies received as outlined in the appropriate grant application, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Article 6. See if the town will vote to accept and expend any sum or sums of money that may be available from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Transportation for Chapter 90 type construction, improvements, and/or reconstruction of public ways and associated equipment, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into contracts relative thereto, and to appropriate said sum or sums in anticipation of reimbursement from the Commonwealth, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Article 7. See if the town will vote to authorize the town treasurer, with the consent of the Board of Selectmen, borrow money from time to time in anticipation of the revenue for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. In accordance with the provision of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 4, and to issue a note or notes as may be given for a period of less than 1 year, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 17, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Article 8. Excuse me. See if the town will vote to authorize the members of the cemetery board to perform work in the cemeteries and to allow the Board of Selectmen to determine the compensation to be paid to said members or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Excuse me 1 minute, I have an allergy. The pollen is bad around my house. Article 9. See if the town will vote to authorize the members of the Recreation Commission to perform work in the park and to allow the Board of Selectmen to determine the compensation to be paid to said members or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Article 10. To see if the town will vote to allow the Board of Library Trustees to sell for the sum of $1 the discarded books and periodicals of the Acushnet Public Library to the Friends of the Acushnet Public Library, a non-profit library support group, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 4 through 10, the so-called consent agenda, as printed in the warrant.
I have a second.
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends the passage of Articles 4 through 10 in the consent agenda.
Any discussion from the floor? We'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Articles 4 through 10 inclusive? We're way ahead of it. Those opposed? Articles 4 through 10, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. Article 11. These are revolving funds articles. To see if the town will vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to set the limits on the total amounts that may be expended in fiscal year 2023 from each of the town's revolving funds established under the Acushnet General Bylaws, Article 21, revolving funds, as set forth below, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. I'll read each revolving fund name, who's authorized to spend from it, and the maximum amount that they can spend from it. Recycling, the Public Works Department, $10,000. Conservation Commission, $2,500. Parks and Recreation Commissioners, $12,500. Council on Aging, $30,000. Public Library Trustees, $6,000. The reason that we have behind this, and you should have a copy, is Mass General Law, Chapter 44, mandates the reauthorization of maximum expendable amounts annually by town meeting. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town fix the maximum amounts that may be spent during fiscal year 2024 for the revolving funds established for certain departments, boards, committees, agencies, or offices in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, as described and printed in the warrant.
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Any discussion from the floor? Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, raise your yellow card, please. Those opposed? Article 11 passes unanimously. Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
James Fernandes, 29 Tracy Street.
You have discussion of Article 11?
No, I would like to move up Article 39
And what's your motion, sir?
to make a motion to vote yes on Article 39.
No, that's, I can help you out with that. You need to make a motion to advance.
Oh, to advance Article 39.
Okay? We're going to need a second. There is a second. Any discussion? The motion before us is to move Article 39, which is the last article in the warrant, to the next article. Any discussion with regard to that? We will put that to a vote then. All those in favor of advancing Article 39 to the next article to be read, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 39 has been advanced to the next article. Give me a second to get to it. Article 39. To see if the town will vote to amend Article 6 of the Town of Acushnet General Bylaws by amending the current cross-line highlighted language of Article 6, and by inserting in its place the highlighted language in Appendix 1, which appendix is incorporated herein, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote Article 39 as printed in the warrant with amendments or changes highlighted in Appendix 1.
Do I have a second? Any discussion I will read, before we get to discussion, I will read the various sections of the bylaw. Section 1, there are no changes. Section 2, page 2, the capitalization changes only. They have the same meaning, haven't changed the meaning. Paragraph number 1 changes the word from regulation to bylaw. Section 3, earth removal procedure. Paragraph A, first sentence. For the purpose, hold on 1 second. No large operation as defined above shall be allowed on any parcel of land within the town, except as hereafter provided, and only in accordance with a written permit issued by the board. And they've changed the wording from the Board of Selectmen to the board. Paragraph B, first sentence. Change person to large operation. Paragraph B.8. In approving the issuance of a permit, the board may impose reasonable conditions, especially designed to safeguard the neighborhood and the town, including the following. That's the only change, paragraph A. Paragraph B.8.H is capitalization only, doesn't change any meaning. Paragraph B.8.L. That should be on page 6. They have the word all large operation, and they have changed the word regulation to bylaw on 2 occasions. Section 3, paragraph C, D, and E merely changes the terms Board of Selectmen to board. No changes in meaning. There's some discussion?
I just want to be clarified, like, what does it mean when it just says board? Does that mean like any board or?
Means the soil board. So the reason why it's stricken out selectmen is because the original bylaw puts the board in some positions, which is the soil board, which is the Board of Selectmen. And then in the old bylaw in 2021, that was originally amended, it references Board of Selectmen. So if anybody notices, every time we open our meetings, we have to open up a Board of Selectmen's meeting and a soil board's meeting, and it's kind of redundancy. So when we redid this to add a waiver provision, we got rid of some of the Mickey Mouse stuff that didn't really belong there.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, moderator.
Yeah.
For the record, I need his name and address.
Oh, Eric Cabanas, 21 Lane Way.
Were you able to hear it? Section 4, paragraph D. I'll read that because that's a little lengthy. The board may consider permits that do not comply with the provisions of any section of this bylaw, provided that 1, the applicant in his permit application may request exception to the literal enforcement of a specifically named provision.
Mr. Moderator, I don't know if you have the right thing here.
Did I read the right thing?
I don't know
Section
where you're
4?
at.
That's under exception, correct?
Yeah.
That's something different.
I don't know, it sounds like it's only the red.
Okay, I stand corrected. I apologize. The board or its authorized agent may waive strict compliance with any requirement of this bylaw or the rules and regulations promulgated hereunder, where such action is: 1, allowed by federal, state, and local statutes or regulations; 2, in the public interest; and 3, not inconsistent with the purpose and intent of this bylaw. Any person seeking a waiver must submit a written waiver request. Such a request shall be accompanied by an explanation or documentation supporting the waiver request and demonstrating that strict application of the bylaw does not further the purposes or objectives of this bylaw. If, in the opinion of the board or its authorized agent, additional time or information is required for review of a waiver request, the board may continue a hearing to a date certain announced at the hearing. In the event the applicant objects to a continuance or fails to provide requested information, the waiver request shall be denied. Section 5, paragraph A, changes Board of Selectmen. I'm sorry?
Hi, I'm Anita Davis, 1528 Main Street, Acushnet.
Yeah.
Define large operation and define, I just need to know, I have a farm, I need to know, like anytime I bring gravel in or any kind of material, I have to come in front of the board. I need a permit to do that.
Who would like to take this question?
So the definition of a large operation means any active operations on a property which contains 50 or more acres of disturbed surface area, or any soil removal operation with a soil, the rest of that? Soil removal throughput volume of 15,000 cubic yards during the most recent 65-day period.
So you have to have 50 acres or more for this to apply, right? That's what I'm hearing? That's exact?
Or 15,000 cubic yards during the last 365 days.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Christian Souza, 46 Laura Keene Avenue.
And farming's excluded from the bylaw.
Mr. D'Souza, would you mind waiting till I finish reading the entire bylaw, and then I'll take questions or discussion from all? Thank you, sir. Section 7. Fees. Change Board of Selectmen to board and add the words, but not limited to. Now, I'll read it if you'd like. The board shall establish such fees as it shall find necessary for the administration of this bylaw, including but not limited to for the issuance of the original permit, renewal permits, semi-annual inspections, complete inspections, and special inspections. Section 8, general administration. Elimination of that sentence. These words must be incorporated in permit and appear thereon. Paragraph A1, add the inspector or the board shall be required to notify the owner or petitioner before making any inspections. Section 8, paragraph B, is the one I've got marked C, and I may have an earlier copy. Eliminating the words "or inspector." It's just the board that may retain a civil engineer. Paragraph C eliminates the words "of selectmen" on the advice of their enforcement officer. Section 9, paragraph A, adds the words, "or the board." Paragraph B changes inspector to enforcement officer or the board. And changes shall to may. Paragraph C changes board of selectmen to board. Section 10, the first sentence changes board of selectmen to board. And the next to the last paragraph on page 11 add, if applicable, and a capitalization change. And I've gone through every addition, deletion, or change on this bylaw, and now we'll open it up to discussion. Further discussion, I should say.
Christian Souza, 46 Worthing Avenue. The first question I have for the select board is, when were these amendments drawn up? Was it done in a public forum, or was it done in executive session, or how were these amendments drafted?
It was done by town council in a recommendation of a waiver provision, as you know, was done in a public session where I made the comments, take the one out of the stormwater bylaw and add it to the soil conservation bylaw, because the one that was in the original soil conservation bylaw by town council seemed a little bit whacked out, so the board agreed to use the one from the stormwater bylaw so that we would have consistent language with waiver provisions.
And does that bylaw include the word strict as well?
I'm sorry?
Strict compliance, does the stormwater bylaw use the word strict compliance as well, included in the waiver?
I don't understand the question, Christian.
Well, I understand that you're trying to pursue a waiver for the bylaw, but the word strict compliance seems like it takes the teeth out of the current bylaw. If we're going to allow a waiver regarding strict compliance, wouldn't that be contrary to the best interest of the public?
Depends on how you want to interpret it. I guess the way I looked at that word strict compliance, I raised the question, and I guess any waiver provision is just doing just that, right? It can do anything it wants to do if you have a waiver provision. Whether the word's strict there or not, it depends on who you are and what you want to interpret from a bylaw as being strict or not strict.
It seems to me that would be contrary to the best interest of the town. That's all I have.
Kevin Smith, 161 Lawson Avenue. I take exception here to Section 4, line item D. The board or its authorized agent may waive strict compliance. The board should be the one to make any waiver, because the board is the elected body. They're the only ones that the voters can hold accountable. Therefore, I'm making a motion that we take out or its authorized agent, where it says the board only may waive strict compliance in that first item. I believe I can make that motion to change that from the floor.
Yes, you can. Let me get back your, what page?
So-
Your section 4.
I'm on 51, Section 4, D. the board, okay, I want to remove or its authorized agent.
I agree 100%.
Excuse me, sir, to make an amendment, you need to put it in writing to us. Since a
Show me
long
that
time,
rule. Show me that rule.
it's the
And it
moderator,
can come from the floor.
it's the
all I want.
moderator's prerogative, sir.
Just asking to put it right.
Put it in writing. It's the reason is there'll be no chance of misinterpretation.
Put it on the back of my.
It doesn't matter, as long as it's in writing.
Right, I need to sign it. Do I need to sign it? Yeah. Is that acceptable?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
So the motion to amend is to remove the wording or its authorized agent, and I believe it was seconded. Is there any further discussion? This will be a majority vote.
I have a discussion. I need to know something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I'm sure. I know. I get it. But listen, it's a joke, guy. Listen, about the writing thing, I don't see anything that says excluding farms. So can you guys put that in writing? Excluding farms from this whole thing?
Section 4 under exemption.
Section 4?
Section 4 under the
Ma'am,
All right, I'm new at this, so bear with me.
Ma'am, we're on the amendment now. We need to, your request is out of order at
Oh,
this
it's,
point.
oh,
in
it's
time.
out of order? Oh, good.
At this point
I'm
in
liking
time,
that.
we need to finish the business on the amendment.
All right, I see it. Thank you. Sorry.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? This will be a majority vote. All those in favor of the amendment as written, raise. As amended, as submitted in writing. All those opposed? The amendment passes with opposition. Is there any further discussion? Ma'am? No? We've dealt with the amendment. Are you satisfied? Okay. Sir?
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. Nicholas Gomes, 382 Main Street. My question is in regards to the definition of large operations. I want to make sure that the select board is satisfied with that definition as written. And my concern essentially is that I believe its common language is limiting to active operations, meaning anything within that 365-day period. So my question to you is whether the use of that word active, or when it says means any active operation, and then on the second part, or the 15,000 cubic yards during the most recent 365-day period. So would that mean if a particular property was inactive for more than a year, they would no longer be considered a large operation and it would not apply to them? Or are you satisfied that even if it goes beyond that period of time, as soon as it starts?
Darren Klein, through the moderator. Basically, large operation means two things. The first, as you said, any active operation on property which contains 50 or more acres of disturbed surface area. That would be for an active operation. And the second definition that would qualify, because it's or, not and, is any soil removal operation with a soil removal throughput volume of 15,000 cubic yards during the most recent 365-day period. So those are the two different definitions that would meet the large operations definition.
I appreciate the answer, and if I just may press just for clarity. So if essentially the first part of it being active is going to be acceptable, so as soon as they start operations and are applying to be active, then they would be included. So if someone is inactive past that year, they're still going to be included as soon as they start. Essentially, being inactive is not going to make it stale, and as soon as they start back up again, it would be a large operation.
If it's active, yes. If it starts up, it'll be active.
And then my last question, Mr. Moderator, is if this does go to a vote and it passes, does it have the ability to be recalled, maybe if a large group of people leave?
Once it comes to a vote, it's the vote.
Thank you very much.
I've been advised by town council that it can be reconsidered before the end of this meeting. That's in our town charter. Yes.
Cheryl O'Brien, 25 South Main Street. I don't know about anyone else, but for me, I'm uncomfortable with just using the board. I think it should specify which board. It might be redundant for you, but not for us.
Is there any other discussion?
Gary Rockcliffe, 74 Mecca Way.
Mr. Rockcliffe, in this setting, you refer to me as Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Moderator, I have a cough drop in my pocket if you would like one. It's
No,
wrapped.
I have one in mind, too.
All right. Well, you were struggling. My only thing is the part where it says the inspector or the board shall be required to notify the owner or the petitioner before making any inspection. Why would you want to tip your hand if you're going out there to see if something's wrong? The Board of Health does their inspections without calling. The fire department does its inspections without calling. They just go out to see how many capacity people are in the thing. Why do you really want to tip your hand when you're going out to inspect the place?
Mr. Rockcliffe, what are you referring to specifically?
Section 8,
Okay.
Article A, subparagraph 1. It would be on page 53.
Yep, I see it.
I just don't understand why you want to call the guy and tell him, hey, I'm coming out to inspect.
I mean, again, there's a lot of
Can you speak up? Please, thank you.
Darren Klein, through the moderator, town council. There's a number of reasons for it, but obviously there's certain due process might be the wrong word, but there's certain notice and safety advantages to the town by giving notice, so people know. So you are giving notice, and so the person can't allege that their property is being infringed upon or trespassed. So notice is a good thing.
Okay, so how much notice are we gonna give? Are you gonna give them 12 hours? Are you gonna give them 24? Are you gonna give them a
The
week?
bylaw says before the inspection they'll be notified. There's no time limitation.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Moderator. David DeRoche, 1399 Main Street. As a former chairman of the Select Board and former chairman of the Soil Board, I would like to say I am not opposed to this amendment to the bylaw. I feel that it still keeps the teeth, if you want to call it that, and the power to the board to make the decisions that they're going to have to make to grant the soil bylaw permit for PJ Keating. I feel this gives a break to the small guys here in Acushnet. We're going to be exempt from all the rules that say large operations. I think it was, when this was passed, it was a little vague, and they got swept up in the operation. But I think this is going to define the small guy from the big guy. And it is still up to the board to decide all the things that they must decide. Hours of operation, routes of travel, method of removal, and most important, what is in the best interest of this town. For years I've heard citizens saying that they want to be good neighbors, that they want the quarry to be good neighbors. For years I've heard the quarry and its representatives saying, well, they should have known better. They bought a house next to the quarry. Well, buying a house next to the quarry does not negate the fact that PJ Keating must comply with all state, federal, and town bylaws. So, you know, that's what I have to say. I don't feel this is gonna take the power out of the bylaw. The bylaw was written to protect the citizens of this town. There still needs to be public hearings about the application. There are some variances that have been requested, some that I think are, you know, I'll leave that for the public hearing. This is about the amendment to the bylaw tonight. It's not about the asphalt plant, it's about the operation of the quarry. Thank you very much.
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, the reality of the waiverable provision has been put inside here because without a waiverable provision, we basically are telling PJ Keating goodbye. And I don't think anyone, or maybe a few of you, would like to see that happen. But I've spoken to a number of constituents throughout the community, and I get asked the question more so as, when's PJ Keating gonna open? So the reality of it is if we, the board, didn't have a waiverable provision, which we're requesting tonight, the reality of it is PJ Keating can't open because of some of the things that are in the bylaw, which strictly remove them from doing any earth removal. So that's why we put a waiverable provision in there, because there's certain things that are in the bylaw that is absolutely ridiculous to ask PJ Keating to uphold.
Moderator. As someone who served with Mr. DeRoche, Dave, I appreciate you clarifying your position in support of this bylaw and giving us the opportunity to, consider a waiver. Mr. Gasper is chairman of the Soil Board. The three of us have worked together on this issue, so I thought I would at least make my position known that I am in support of this as well.
Is there any other discussion? Please take the podium, sir.
Hi, my name is Michael Ventura. I live at 50 Yacht Street. And I don't want to get into the weeds of all the details of what I read, but The way I see it is it gives you guys flexibility. And I think flexibility is a good thing, because then what you guys pass will work for everybody and not just a select few residents. That's all I have to say.
Is there any other discussion? Well, it's time to put the bylaw to a vote. As amended.
Finance Committee recommendation?
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee voted to refer this article to town meeting since it didn't impact the budget.
This will be a 2/3 vote because it's a bylaw. All those in favor of this bylaw as amended, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? The bylaw passes by 2/3 with opposition.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, Mr. Gass.
if I can just remind the folks in the audience that if, I know you all want to get home, but you heard the question to be asked that can it be retaken back up, and the moderator said yes. So you run a risk if you run out the door that somebody could re-establish this article and re-bring it back up, and it could fail again. So please don't do that.
Okay, next article, Article 12. To see if the town will vote to create a new revolving fund pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, for the Soil Conservation Board, into which monies received by the town from Soil Conservation Board fees and revenues are deposited, and from which the Soil Conservation Board shall be authorized to expend funds solely for the programs related to the table to the fees that will be collected. And for such purposes, to amend the Town of Acushnet general bylaws by inserting a new row in the table appearing in Article 21 of such bylaws, and further to separately establish an annual expenditure limit of $20,000 per fiscal year, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. I will read each column for you. Revolving Fund, Soil Conservation Board. The department, board, committee, agency, or officer authorized to spend would be the Soil Conservation Board. Fees charged or other receipts credited to the fund are those received by the town Soil Conservation Board. Expenses payable from the fund are maintenance costs, supplies, equipment, contracted services relating to the jurisdiction of the board. There are no restrictions or conditions on expenses payable from the fund, no other requirements or reports, and it's for the fiscal year 2024 and subsequent years. The reason the Soil Conservation Board fees and revenues would be separately held in this revolving account and used for recurring engineering and consultant services to protect the town's interests. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E, 1.2, to establish a Soil Conservation Board revolving fund and to fix the maximum amount that may be spent during fiscal year 2024 and subsequent years at $20,000 as described and printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Any discussion from the floor? Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. This needs a 2/3 majority to pass. All those in favor, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article passes unanimous. It was? Passes by 2/3 with opposition. I'm sorry, I didn't see. Article 13. See if the town will vote pursuant to Chapter 40, Section 5B of the Massachusetts General Laws to fund the Health Insurance Stabilization Fund created for the purpose of paying for future costs associated with employee health insurance and health reimbursement accounts, and to transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000 to said stabilization fund, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. The town has continued to have a negative premium to cost ratio as a result of many catastrophic cases. The health insurance provider continues to predict large future increases in health insurance costs. It's prudent business practice to establish a health insurance stabilization account to assist in spreading out these costs. The town's health insurance consultant has also assisted the town in issuing a request for quotes proposals from other providers, including group purchasing entities, to spread out future increases. The town will be converting to purchasing through a group purchasing entity this fiscal year. With this transfer of the health insurance stabilization fund will be at $301,529.14. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that consideration of this matter be postponed until after Article 32 has been disposed of.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommended passage of this article.
Discussion? No discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of postponing this till after Article 32, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 13 passes unanimously. Article 14, see if the town will vote pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B, to fund the Compensated Absences Stabilization Fund for the purpose of paying future liabilities for due any employee of the town upon the termination of their employment, and to authorize future payment of accrued liabilities for compensated absences due any employee of the town upon the termination of the employee's employment from the stabilization fund for accrued liability. For compensated absences, by transferring from free cash the sum of $25,000 to said reserve fund, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Municipal employees are eligible for payment of unused paid time off, sick and vacation. Currently, this is the only funding source outside of the departmental operating budget for anticipated retirement payments. This fund allows the town to proactively plan for retirement. This will allow for the town in the future to provide for contractual retirement obligations outside of the operating budget. With this transfer, the Compensated Absences Stabilization Fund will be at $75,367.02. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town transfer from free cash the sum of $25,000 to further fund the Compensated Absences Stabilization Fund.
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Any discussion from the floor? We will put this to a vote. All those in favor of Article 14, raise your yellow cards, please. Those opposed? Article 14 passes unanimously. Article 15. To see if the town will vote pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B, to fund the Stormwater MS4 Stabilization Fund for stormwater management operations and the cost of services for compliance with the general permit for discharges from the municipal separate stormwater system. And by transferring from free cash the sum of $25,000 to said stormwater MS4 stabilization fund, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. In order for the town to provide for increasing costs to comply with the municipal separate storm sewer system, that's what MS4 stands for, general permit including annual reporting and testing requirements, the town has established and funded the stabilization fund to assist it in contracting with appropriate engineering and other consultants. With this transfer, the stormwater MS4 stabilization fund will be at $75,367.06. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town transfer from the free cash the sum of $25,000 to further fund the stormwater MS4 stabilization fund.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Any discussion?
Thomas DeBarris, 21 Winning Way. I'd like to know, is this money going to conservation or is it going to stormwater? Because if you go online now, everything goes to conservation for stormwater. Where in the stormwater bylaws, it's supposed to be the planning board. So where's this money going to go? Is it going to conservation? Is it going to stormwater and the planning board?
It's going into the stabilization fund. Is there anyone that would like to address?
Mr. Moderator, this goes into a separate fund, a stabilization fund, for in the future, if you need engineering services to comply with the permit, then the town
So
can use
it's just
that.
basically going into like a bank account.
Yes, it's not going to conservation, planning, or any other operational account.
Thank you very much.
And, sir, the only way to get the money out of the stabilization account is for a separate town meeting vote.
Okay, Barrels 21 Lane Way. Don't you think this would be smarter to put it into somebody under control that we can actually do something? Especially being so far behind on MS4 bylaws that we are.
So there's another article that's coming up for MS4 engineering that the town of Acushnet's Board of Selectmen will have the authorization to expend funds for that and work with the engineer on behalf of the town. It's got nothing to do with individuals going to conservation or stormwater. It has nothing to do with that. That's a total separate thing. This is the town's MS4 permit that we need to be in compliance with as a municipality. So that money will be directed under the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, so that would go to like the cleaning of the swells and all that stuff.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 15, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 15 passes unanimously. Article 16, see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $150,000 to the General Stabilization Fund or take any other action thereon. According to municipal finance best practices, the town needs to maintain an amount equal to 4% of the total projected general fund operating revenue for the next fiscal year in its unrestricted stabilization funds. The general stabilization fund about less than 10%. With this transfer, the general stabilization fund will be at $3,500,795.31, which is 10.1% of projected 2024 revenues. Keeping this fund balance at this level will assist the town in maintaining its bond rating and showing financial responsibility and stability, bond and credit rating agencies. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mr. Moderator, I move the town transfer from free cash a sum of $150,000 to further fund the general stabilization fund.
May I have a second? Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends this article.
Any discussion from the floor? Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 16, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 16 passes with opposition. Article 17. See if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000 to the OPEB trust account. That stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. The town has an OPEB trust account created to enable the town to adopt best practices and comply with the reporting requirements of GASB 45. GASB stands for the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. This article continues funding the OPEB trust account and permits said monies to be invested and solely utilized for payments to defray the cost of the town's OPEB liabilities. The town benefits from having an OPEB trust fund as it shows financial responsibility and stability to bond and credit rating agencies and reduces the future fiscal impact of pay-as-you-go systems on the operating budget. With this transfer, the balance in the OPEB trust fund is $985,144.26. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000 to further fund OPEB trust fund.
Do I have a second? Second. Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor. Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 17 passes with opposition. Article 18. See if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000 to the Capital Expense Stabilization Fund or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. According to municipal finance best practices, the town will add $100,000 to Capital Expense Infrastructure Stabilization Fund to defray future infrastructure repair, renovation, and construction costs, as well as engineering and planning expenses. With this transfer, the Capital Expense Infrastructure Stabilization Fund will be at $855,862.73, thus assisting the town in maintaining its bond rating and showing financial responsibility and stability to bond and credit rating agencies. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000 to further fund the Capital Expense Stabilization Fund.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor. Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, raise your yellow card, please. Those opposed? Article 18 passes with opposition. Article 19. See if the town will vote to accept the provisions of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 13E, or any amendments thereto, and in accordance with such law, to transfer funds potentially available from fiscal year 23 Acushnet School Department funds to the school special education reserve fund, the reserve fund, so that reserve fund does not exceed 2% of the annual net school spending of the school district. The reserve fund is to be utilized in the upcoming fiscal years to pay without further appropriation for unanticipated or unbudgeted costs of special education and recovery high school programs, out-of-district tuition or transportation, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. This will allow the town to reserve for future special education purposes amounts equivalent to receipts received from Fairhaven or New Bedford for out-of-district special education tuitions or such other funds as may be appropriate. The monies in this fund cannot be expended from the school special education reserve fund without the approval of both the school committee and the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a motion?
Moderator, I move the town accept the provisions of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 13E, or any amendments thereto, and in accordance with such law, to transfer funds potentially available from fiscal year 23 Acushnet School Department funds to the School Special Education Reserve Fund, the Reserve Fund, so that the Reserve Fund does not exceed 2% of the annual net school spending of the school district, and to authorize that the Reserve Fund be utilized in the upcoming fiscal years to pay without further appropriation for the unanticipated or unbudgeted costs of special education and recovery of high school programs, out-of-district tuition or transportation in relationship to special education services.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommended passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor.
Mr. Moderator, can I just get a little clarification? Kevin, you read that whole thing. It's just special ed related to the children. If they're special ed and they want to play sports after school, they can play sports? Because you went on to a long list of what that money could, without appropriation, could be used for. I just want to make sure it's just for the special ed child and nothing else.
It's just for either the tuition for out-of-district special ed services, the transportation there too, or any other services for a special education student.
Just for that child? Okay,
Yes.
fine, I'm happy.
My name is Brian Clower, I live at 3 Sandpiper Lane. I have a question about the,
Sir, could you please say your name and address again so we could hear it up here?
it's Brian Clower, I live at 3 Sandpiper Lane. So my question is about the funds not to exceed 2% of the annual. Is that the school budget or the town budget, or is there a cap on the amount of money?
School budget, net school spending.
So if there's leftover money that you can appropriate someplace, you couldn't give it to the school committee. You could only give, let's say the school committee budget was $100. You could only give them $2 out of this fund. Is that what you're saying?
There's a cap on this fund, and it's 2% of the school budget. So you can't put in more than the equivalent of 2% of the school budget.
Right, you can't exceed their budget by 2% with any additional money. Is that what this is saying?
This is saying it's a separate fund, similar to a stabilization fund for special education. And the state caps it at 2% of the school budget. So they can't put in more than the number, which is equal to 2% of the school budget.
Alex Ambolino, 14 Reservation Road. So approximately what is that 2%? Oh, can you guys hear me?
Somebody put that mic on, because I don't think that mic's on.
Can you speak into that mic, please, close? Yeah, speak.
Alex?
Yeah, that's not on.
It's not on.
Alice Umbolina, 14 Reservation Road. My question is, what's actually the 2% left from the fiscal year 23 for the school budget for special education?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
if we could defer that question to the business manager of the schools, Patrick?
Yeah.
Good evening, Patrick McIntyre, School Business Manager. The calculation to meet the 2% cap for this fund would be approximately $45,000 for FY23.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? If not, we put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 19, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 19 passes unanimously. Article 20. Kindly, if you're raise that hand up as high as you can down here. Sometimes I miss it, and I apologize for that. It passes with opposition. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from free cash a sum or sums of money for any or all of the following capital technology improvement projects and purchases, including in each case all incidental and related expenses, and further to provide that each project or acquisition listed below shall be considered a special appropriation and may only be expended in the amount and for the express purpose listed, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. I will read each line item. If you wish to discuss one individually, please state hold. I'll return to that line item when all have been read. You don't need to identify yourself to hold an item, but be prepared to speak on it when we return to it, if there are any held. Technology Department, for network phones and security cameras, $20,000. All these items will come from free cash. Technology, network infrastructure, $30,000. Technology Department, hardware and network devices, $5,900. Technology Department, Wi-Fi devices, $5,600. Technology, miscellaneous network and fiber supplies and materials, $8,500. Police Department, server hardware and network devices, $30,000. Police, updated associated software, $20,000. Police, miscellaneous network supplies, $10,000. The school, power supply units, cables, and heat reduction, $21,000. The school, transceiver and cables, $19,000. And the school for network equipment, switches, and licenses, $85,000, for a total of $255,000. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move items A through K of Article 20 as printed in the warrant, and to fund all items, transfer $255,000 from free cash.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommended passage of this article.
Any discussion from the floor further? Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 20, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 20 passes unanimously. Article 21. See if the town will vote to transfer from free cash or otherwise provide the sum of $465,000 for the capital improvement purchase of a tanker fire truck, preferably a 2023 Kenworth T-480 two-door cab tandem axle with a Cummins PX9 450 horsepower engine, and an Allison 3000 EBS 5-speed transmission with a water tank capacity of 3,000 gallons, a Hale 1,250 gallon per minute pump, a 3,000 gallon folding portable tank, one 24-foot ladder, one 14-foot roof ladder with hooks, or if no longer available, a fire truck that meets the town's needs, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Our tanker fire truck will allow us to respond to the residents of the town, primarily in the parts of town without fire hydrants, with more water capacity in the current, safer, and more reliable apparatus. This truck is a massive upgrade over our current 37-year-old 1,800 gallon capacity unit. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 21 as printed in the warrant and to fund said appropriation, transfer of $465,000 from free cash.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, Finance Committee recommended the passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor. Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 21, raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 21 passes unanimously. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a reserve from fiscal year 2024 Community Preservation Fund estimated annual revenues in the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for fiscal year 2024 committee administrative expenses and required reserves to fund the recommended community preservation projects and other expenses from the funding source in the amount and for the purpose specified for each project as set forth in the proposed project chart, with each item to be considered a special appropriation, and further that appropriations hereunder marked with an asterisk shall be considered a grant to the private entity listed, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into such grant agreements upon such terms and conditions that it deems in the best interest of the town, all as follows, or take any action thereon or in relation thereto. The appropriations for fiscal year 2024 estimated revenues for administrative expenses, $13,000. The transfers to reserves from fiscal year 2023 estimated revenues for historic resources reserve, $26,000. From fiscal year 2023 estimated revenues for community housing reserve, $26,000. From fiscal year 2023 estimated revenues for open space reserve, $26,000 for a total of $78,000. I'll now read each line item for the proposed project chart. Recreation and parks. The purpose, survey plans, engineering, boat park improvements, comes from open space funds, $10,000. Historic Commission, Long Plain Museum fence repair and installation. Historic source of funds, $7,620. Historic Commission, flagpole for the Perry Hill School installation. From the historic source of funds, $269. Historic Commission, Parting Ways building sign repair and replacement, $1,400. Historic Commission, that line item has been tabled. Pass over that. Buzzard Bay Coalition, Acushnet Forest Conservation Project, from undesignated source of funds, $85,000. All of these proposed projects have been approved by the Community Preservation Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Board of Selectmen, for a total of $104,309. This article ensures that Cushion's community preservation accounts are compliant with the Community Preservation Act, which requires that a certain portion of the CPA funds be set aside for open space projects, community housing projects, and historical projects. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee reserve from fiscal year 2024 Community Preservation Fund estimated revenues from fiscal year 2024 estimated revenues $13,000 for administrative expenses, from fiscal year 2024 estimated revenues $26,000 for historic resource reserve, from fiscal year 2024 estimated revenues $26,000 for community housing reserve, from fiscal year 2024 estimated revenues $26,000 for open space reserve, and further to fund the recommended funding sources and the recommended community preservation projects and other expenses as printed in the warrant.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommended this article.
Any discussion from the floor?
Mr. Moderator, Gary Rockland, 74 Mecca Way. If we vote yes to this, all them projects are getting funded, including the Buzzards Bay Coalition one?
That is correct.
All right, can I amend the article?
You can attempt to amend it, yes.
I'd like to amend the Buzzards Bay Coalition's project from 85,000 to 0.
You're gonna need to put that in writing.
I can do that, but you want it now?
Yes, please.
I can do that. So already got some paper? So you want me to use my voting card?
Last page.
Yeah, well, you can go. All right, so.
You just cross it out.
Oh, you need me to sign?
You know, Mr. Rockcliffe, that you're gonna need a second for this
I'm
to move
hoping
forward.
somebody at least second it so we can have some discussion. You got to second it for me to explain it to you. So I can discuss it till after. Thank you.
Please, if you're gonna second it, please approach the microphone with your name and address.
Thank you. Cheryl, her name was Cheryl, she seconded it. Would you like me just to talk loud?
Is there a, yeah.
There you go.
Beautiful.
I'll try to tone it down now so it don't carry too far for it. All right, so I made the motion to go to 0. Somebody was kind enough to second it, so we can open it up.
We'll open it up to discussion.
Are we ready for discussion?
Yes, we are.
All right, so the reason I held that is the Buzzards Bay Coalition, I don't know if you people are aware, they're the same people that want you to all get new septic systems that are nitrogen-free, and it's gonna cost you between $25,000 and $50,000. They used another corporation named Citizens something or other. It's all the same people. And every time Buzzards Bay Coalition takes property from the town of Acushnet, it takes it off our tax rolls, and you have to make it up. So they get the tax exemption because they're a not-for-profit. And basically, if the property they're grabbing is $4,000, we collectively have to make up the $4,000. The organization recently went after the town of Marion, forced them to do $2 million worth of repairs to their sewer treatment plant, and it was found out that there was nothing wrong with it, that that plant wasn't leaking the nitrogen, and then they made everybody down there in Marion change all their boat moorings because they said the boat moorings were killing the seagrass. They made them change them to the wrong moorings, and they found out the new moorings they made them put in is killing the seagrass, and they want everybody to change their moorings again. I will not give $1 of my money to that organization, and I don't recommend any of you do the same thing. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Jesse Ellis, 922 Middle Road. I'm the vice chair of the CPC. The Buzzards Bay Coalition came to the CPC with a proposal to conserve a fairly large area around the Tinkham Pond Reservoir, which is what's included in this article. The CPC committee initially tabled their request pending additional information. Specifically, we were looking for access within the town of Acushnet. That was probably the biggest holdup. They were asking us and some other surrounding towns to come together and pledge some support, give some funds to help them fund this fairly large Tinkham Pond Reservoir Conservation, or Tinkham Pond Conservation Project. They came back to us with an amended proposal that would provide access at 2 points within the town of Acushnet, as well as some off-street parking, and made the proposal meet all of the different requirements that the CPC had. This would provide a large area of recreation use to town residents in combination with some other neighboring towns. We do recommend this article, and yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Moderator, I'm Alan Decker with Buzzards Bay Coalition. I'm not a resident, so if I would like to speak, I need to be qualified, please.
You certainly have the floor, sir.
All right, thank you very much. So this project, I appreciate the words that were just said by the CPC Vice Chair. This project is a land conservation project in the southeastern corner of Acushnet. What we are looking for, yes, we are the applicant, but the funding that, if town meeting approves this, the funding goes into the overall project, which was, as stated, 241 acres of acreage that spreads from Acushnet through Mattapoisett and up into Rochester. This is in the Mattapoisett River watershed. This is meant to protect the aquifer for that river that provides drinking water not only to the citizens of the town of Acushnet, but also the other towns that get their drinking water from the Mattapoisett River. What we have proposed is an $85,000 contribution from CPC to go into this overall project. The result that the town gets is a co-hold of a conservation restriction over a portion of the property. In this case, of this project, 241 acres, 77 and a half are located within the bounds of the town of Acushnet. That would be the extent of the protection provided by the Conservation Commission here in Acushnet. We have met with the Conservation Commission on this project. We haven't asked them for a vote yet, but I will be back with them seeking their support. This is a $6 million project overall. The towns of Mattapoisett, Marion, Fairhaven have all voted $85,000 to the project. Town of Rochester doesn't have Community Preservation Act passed in their town, but they have received a $70,000 grant from the federal government that goes into this project. And the big piece of this overall project is a grant that the town of Mattapoisett received for $4.5 million to make this project a reality to protect this land. I think it's important that the town know these things. There was a fact sheet out by the front check-in about this project. It's a great project that protects significant acreage that will be beneficial to the town and will be publicly accessible. It will be publicly accessible from public roads in the town of Acushnet, specifically Mattapoisett Road and I believe Holly Road, a cul-de-sac and a subdivision a bit to the north. We firmly believe this is a great project that has very positive results for the town and for its neighboring towns. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
And everything he just told you is fine and dandy. He's getting a huge grant, and they're going full steam ahead with this project, whether we, as a Acushnet, vote them any money or not. I'm not a big fan of their organization. As I told you ahead of time, I don't want to see any of our money go to them. You're not going to lose out. The land's still going to go into all whatever they're doing, because you heard them, there's millions involved. Don't sign on.
Everett James, 13 Slocum Street. I've been a volunteer for Bug Bay Coalition for 10 years. Acushnet Sawmill, if you remember, Acushnet Sawmill used to be, how it is now. LaPlante Farm, how it is now. I mean, you have all these beautiful properties they preserve, and we get to use them. People of it doesn't cost us a cent. We could go there. That's a fantastic organization. We do cleanups. We just cleaned up Marsh Islands. We cleaned up Palmer's Island in the harbor. We do fantastic work, and it's all for free. We have we have 90% volunteers. And what they do, they preserve the land. They preserve for us, for our kids. Because people just want to come in here and they cut trees down. This is a fantastic organization. And thank God we have organizations like that, and we have volunteers to preserve our land, to preserve our environment. We need trees, we need grasses, we need clean water. Without it, we drink what we're out of here. So that's what I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Deco, you have the last word here.
Well, I neglected, it was brought up earlier and I neglected to address this in my previous remarks. Tax revenue from the 77.5 acres in Acushnet. I don't have the exact numbers, but I can tell you in town meeting, it is currently enrolled in chapter land status. It is taxed at a fraction of what it would otherwise be. We propose no change in use to that enrollment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Rocha, 20 Nice Lane, Chair of Conservation Commission. I won't speak for the rest of my commission members. I am certainly in support of this project. And as a reminder, the money is already sitting in the CPC account. It has to be spent somewhere. This is an appropriate way to spend it.
Thank you, sir. I think, Mr. Moderator. Yes, Mr. Lawler.
So when we look at this property, we've been dealing with aggressive solar farming, something we've all been concerned about, and that's a concern of mine. It's a judgment call, right? If you don't conserve the land, the people who own the land are looking to, cash in on their investment at some point, and that could become the next solar farm, cutting down trees, all the stuff that we're concerned about. So whether you like the organization or not, that's Gary's whatever. The point is the new problem better than the old problem, which is conserving land, right? So think about that, please.
I think, Mr. Chu, please take the podium.
Sorry. My microphone got taken away. Eric Chu, Finance Committee member. Just want to make a correction that we do not, that we get our water from New Bedford. We don't get it from any watershed or anything like that. I'm not sure about Mattapoisett or any of the other towns, but we're up north? No, okay.
So regular people's home wells.
Right.
Okay, I think we've heard enough, folks. Is there anyone else that hasn't spoken and would like to speak? The motion to amend before us is to strike the $85,000 for the Buzzard Bay Coalition from 85 to 0. This would take a majority vote. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your yellow card. All those opposed? The amendment fails. Now we'll vote on the article itself. All those in favor of Article 22, please raise. You're ahead of me. Okay. All those opposed? Article 22 passes with opposition. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash or otherwise provide the sum of $50,000 for the Board of Selectmen to fund engineering consulting services for compliance with the general permit for discharges from the municipal separate stormwater system, MS4, mandated reporting and associated documents, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. The municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4, general permit prevents most cities and towns in Massachusetts to operate a municipal stormwater system. These stormwaters and drain systems are regulated by the EPA, Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Permit Program. The issuance of this permit means that residents, businesses, developers, and industrial facilities shall only discharge clean stormwater. The town is responsible for ensuring that nothing enters the system that can pollute our streams, rivers, and lakes. The EPA has annual reporting and testing requirements that require municipalities to engage engineering firms and expert consultants to assist in complying with the MS4 requirements. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 23 is printed in the warrant and to fund said appropriation, transfer $50,000 from free cash.
Do I have a second? Second. Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor. Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 23, raise your yellow card. All those opposed? Article 23 passes with opposition. Article 24. See if the town will vote to transfer from free cash or otherwise provide the sum of $1,000 for the Historical Commission and Board of Selectmen to fund repair and maintenance of historical signs throughout the town, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. The Historical Commission and the Board of Selectmen are commencing a historical sign repair or replacement program throughout the town to annually address the deteriorating condition of a number of the historical markers throughout the town. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 24 is printed in the warrant and to fund said appropriation, transfer $1,000 from free cash.
Second? Do I have a second? Finance Committee recommendations.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Any discussion from the floor? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 24, raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 24 passes unanimously. Passes with opposition, I'm sorry.
Just get used to saying that.
Might be easy. Article 25, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, borrow, file for, accept, and expend grants and/or matching funds provided by grants, or otherwise provide a sum or sums of money not to exceed $610,000 to purchase and equip an advanced life support ambulance for the Acushnet Fire EMS Department, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. The current ambulances are 6 and 7 years old, with a normal useful life of an emergency ambulance between 5 and 8 years. There is currently a 2-year backlog from time of order to time of delivery, which will put our ambulance toward the outer limits of typical replacement timeline. Ordering the vehicle at this time will allow us to remain on schedule with our fleet. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to borrow the sum of $610,000 to purchase and equip a new advanced life support ambulance for the Acushnet Fire EMS Department under and pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7/9, or any other enabling authority, and to issue the bonds and notes of the town thereof, provided that any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the cost of the issuance of said bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount of authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any and all actions and enter into and execute any and all agreements and other documents as may be necessary or convenient to effectuate the purposes of this vote.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Any discussion from the floor?
Mr. Moderator? Just so everybody's aware of it, you've seen some purchases of equipment, and thank you very much for making those purchases of the tanker truck for the Fire EMS Department. There's an arbitrary number that the fire chief had to place on this ambulance. It's not the going rate, but because of inflation, we were told to put an additional money on it. It is not in the board's expectations that we will borrow for this. It is just a verbiage that we were advised to use by town council because we need to secure a vote from town meeting to put ourselves on the list to be able to purchase an ambulance. Once we get a VIN number assigned to the town, if this passes, then we can come and ask to do a free cash article to pay for the article, and we can actually make the purchase. But we can't get ourselves in queue for that ambulance ordering unless and until we have funding secured. Thank you.
Kevin Smith, Boston Avenue. I have a question. For our advanced life support, we charge everybody that goes for a ride in that bus. Where does that money go and how much is it? How much do we collect over a year?
Goes into the EMS reserve receipt account, sir, and we collect in roughly $500,000 to $550,000, and that would be part of the funding source moving forward that the Board of Selectmen would utilize to purchase this ambulance in the future, along with some free cash. I would expect that's what the board would do. Whether or not I'm gonna be alive in 2 years to figure this out, that's why I'm explaining it tonight to the people on town meeting floor. That's the anticipation that we're doing. If you noticed the past precedents that the Board of Selectmen has done, we just got off a fire apparatus not long ago that the town had bonded several years ago, 10, 15 years ago, as part of a debt exclusion. This board, along with the Finance Committee and the Town Finance Department, has done a phenomenal job not putting that burden back on the taxpayers via a debt exclusion and on the tax levy to increase your taxes arbitrarily.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. That's why I asked, because I do know that, we do charge, like I said, and a lot of people don't know that. So they don't know. They're thinking you're just pulling some of this money coming out of the air. I know. I just wanted you to clarify it, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy Savella, Hathaway Road. Do you sell the debt when people don't pay that bill for the ambulance ride that they go on at a 60% discount, or do you collect the full 100%?
Fire chief's coming up behind you, ma'am.
That's okay.
Excuse me, moderator, could I get her address, please?
Hathaway Road.
What number, please?
Hathaway Road, Precinct 1, Savella. Is he gonna answer my question? Is that why he's
I would hope so.
behind me?
Yeah, that's why it's there.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. My name is Thomas Farland, 9 Ludlow Street. I also happen to be the fire and EMS chief. Couple of things. One, I did not plan them to get called out at that time. Secondly, in response to his answer first, we're on pace to collect about $640,000, $650,000 this year, of which 515 roughly thousand goes to the general fund to help offset the fire department's operating budget on a yearly basis. The rest of it stays in that account until we need capital purchases, which we then come to town meeting to secure. In answer to your question, all of our billing is done third party by a company called Comstar. And what happens is they bill out all of the insurances, whether it be an auto accident, auto insurance, or your health insurance. Whatever is left, obviously there's usually some kind of deductible that gets paid by the patient. Whatever is left at the end then gets turned over to Comstar, has a collection agency that they work with to try to collect as much of the debt. People are allowed to ask for exemptions or abatements depending on financial reasons, in which case it goes to the Board of Selectmen and they would vote on it. But we attempt to collect as much of that debt as possible.
As much as possible. Okay. I used to work for the fire department at the town of Falmouth as well. I was hired part-time and had a temporary job to give me income so I can fill in all those blanks that he just said this company does, and debt company. So I had a part-time job and we collected a full 100% of what was owed to the town. That was a suggestion I suggested a while ago, many years ago when I first moved to this town. So that's something to consider, because then that would be 100% of the money that's coming in through the ambulance. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 25, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? You know, and I was going to say with opposition, but it's a 2/3 vote, passed unanimously. Article 26. See if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a lease, power purchase, energy storage, and potential pilot agreement. Pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes with Solar Energy Development, LLC, for solar energy projects located at town and school properties. A nonprofit corporation providing solutions to municipalities and other nonprofits to reduce the cost, carbon, and complexity of energy, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. This will allow the school district to explore an opportunity to enter into a campus solar canopy project that could result in potential energy cost savings of over $1 million over a 25-year period, providing safety to employees who utilize the parking lots in which the canopies would cover, provide an outdoor classroom canopy recreation area, and also help meet Massachusetts greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to into a lease, power purchase, energy storage, and potential pilot or payment in lieu of taxes agreement with Select Energy Development, LLC, for solar energy projects located at town and school properties through the program created by Power Options, a nonprofit corporation providing solutions to municipalities and other nonprofits to reduce the cost, carbon, and complexity of energy.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor. Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 26, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Gotcha. Article 26 passes with opposition. Article 27, the operating budget. To see if the town will vote under the provisions of the general laws of Massachusetts, Chapter 41, Section 108, or any amendments thereto, to fix the salaries of all elected officials and to fund collective bargaining agreements for fiscal year 2024 and raise and appropriate any sum or sums therefore, and further raise and appropriate any sum or sums of money for the maintenance of the several departments of the town and for other necessary charges in accordance with the amount recommended by the Finance Committee as shown in the final column of the warrant, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. I will soon take a motion for the budget as a whole. I will then read each budget salary, expense, and total dollar figures by department and/or category. I won't read every line item. They are in the detailed handouts made available to you when you enter. If you wish to discuss the budget, please raise your hand and say hold when I read that budget. We will return to all held budgets once all proposed budgets have been read. You don't need to identify yourself to hold the budget, but be prepared to comment when we return to that budget. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108, or any amendments thereto to fix the salaries of all elected officials, all officers, and all employees appointed or employed, fund collective bargaining agreements, and for the maintenance of the several departments, and for other necessary charges in accordance with the amounts recommended by the Finance Committee as printed in the warrant, and to fund said appropriations transfer from available funds and raise and appropriate as follows. Taxation, $34,096,662. EMS reserve receipts, $513,938. Water surplus fund, $60,000. Debt premium, $1,550 for a grand total of $34,672,150.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Oh,
Did I get a second?
I did get a second. All right, here we go. Reserve fund. Expense, $150,000. Total. Town meeting elections, $18,764. Total. Moderator, salary, $725. Expense, $150. Moderator total, $875. Selectmen, salary, $252,608. Expense, $18,300. Total of $270,908. Finance Committee, salary total, $2,500. Expense, $400. Finance Committee total, $2,900. Accountant, salary, $173,919. Expense, $49,150, for a total of $223,069. Assessors, salary total, $120,669. Expense, $61,960, for a total of $182,629. Treasurer Collector, salary $202,237, expense $57,800, for a total of $260,037. Town Council, legal expenses $107,000 total. Technology, salary $31,600, expense $186,325, for a total of $217,925. Town clerk, salary, $146,208. Expense, $5,101. Total, $151,309. Board of registrars, salary total, $12,929. Expense, $12,050, for a total of $24,979. Conservation Commission, salary, $59,152. Expense, $2,000, for a total of $61,152. Soil Board, salary, $700. Expense, $20,800, for a total of $21,500. Planning Board, salary, $84,758. Expense, $6,000, for a total of $90,758. Board of Appeals, salary, $3,000. Expense, $3,150, for a total of $6,150. Town Buildings, salary, $163,759. Expense, $95,250, for a total of $259,009. The general government total, $2,048,964. Public Safety, Police Department, salary, $2,348,714. Expense, $364,360. A total of $2,713,074. Fire EMS Department, salary, $902,496. Expense, $208,490. A total of $1,110,986. Inspectional Services, salary, $124,287. Expense, $19,950. A total of $144,237. Seal of Weights and Measures, salary, $1,169, and a total of $1,169. Emergency Manager, salary, $4,000. Expense, $12,400. A total of $16,400. Animal Control, salary, $50,268. Expense, $6,740, for a total of $57,008. Forestry, salary of $1,000. Expense of $18,000, for a total of $19,000. Public Safety total, $4,061,874. Old Colony Regional, $2,487,008. Acushnet School Department, $16,058,083. Education total, $18,545,091. Public Works, Highway, salary, $421,813. Expense, $584,400, for a total of $1,006,213. Snow and ice, expense total, $110,000. Street lighting, total, $25,000. CMAX, salary, $42,798. Expense, $1,207,988. CMAS total, $1,250,786. Cemetery, salary, $5,464, $1,325 expense, for a total of $6,789. Water Reserve Fund, total $60,000. Public Works, water, salary, $205,919. Expense, $1,475,280. Total, $1,681,199. Water debt service. Expense total, $206,992. Public Works total, $4,346,979. Human Services. Board of Health, salary total, $173,589. Expense, $29,375. Total, Board of Health, $202,964. Council on Aging, salary, $110,862. Expense, $21,000. Total of $131,862. Veterans, salary, $20,772. Expense, $196,445. Total of $217,217. Human Services total, $552,043. Culture and Recreation, Library, salary, $238,211. Expense, $61,558. Library total, $299,769. Recreation, salary, $10,000. Expense, $12,850. Total, $22,850. Parks Department, salary, $29,000. Expense total, $20,967. Total, $49,967. Historical Commission, $7,800 total. Miscellaneous, salary, $5,000. Expense, $8,500. For a total in miscellaneous of $13,500. Culture Recreation total, $393,886. Regional Government expense, $3,693 total. Debt service, debt principal, $320,000. Long-term debt interest, $111,035. Short-term debt interest, $61,250. Debt service total, $492,285. Pensions, expense total, $1,940,235. Insurance, expense total, $2,287,100. Non-departmental total, $4,227,335. The general fund total, $34,672,150. Hearing no items held, unless there's further discussion, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 27, the operating budget, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Gotcha. It passes with opposition. Article 28, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money to operate the Golf Club Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2024 as shown below. Reserve Fund, $100,000. Salaries, $689,246. Operation and Maintenance, $781,597. Debt service, $340,900. For a total of $1,911,743. This sum to be raised is following. Golf Center revenue, $1,811,743. Retained earnings, $100,000 for a total of $1,911,743. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to approve the golf enterprise budget as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Any discussion from the floor?
Mr. Moderator, Gail Rodericks, 24 Peach Blossom Road. Can someone define for me what undefined benefits are?
Would like to take this one.
I'm sorry, indirect costs.
You want to know what indirect costs are?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers? It would be things associated with like the things of the like of pensions and things of that like. So anything that from an enterprise fund, it's not part of taxation. It would depend on what would be considered an indirect cost that you can apply. Some costs inside, if you were on the golf budget, so I'm assuming you're talking about golf.
Correct.
There are some costs that are indirect that we do capture, and there are costs that the town has never captured, i.e. one of them is pensions. That would be the biggest one.
So that is not reflected in their budget, correct?
That is correct at this time.
And how is that paid?
How is what paid?
This is saying that all of these costs are covered through revenue, golf revenue.
Correct. The indirect.
So they don't show an indirect cost line item. It's zero. But somebody's paying their health insurance, somebody's paying their pension, and if it's not coming out of their budget, how is it being paid?
So the health benefits are being captured in the golf budget.
Okay.
The pension cost I had just spoke on, because we will have some individuals, because of their tenure, more than likely coming up due for retirement. And I had that discussion that maybe it's time that we start capturing that pension cost.
Okay. So what is the what is that cost annually?
Right now, it's zero, because nobody's retired from our golf course. But when individuals do retire, it would be a decent-sized cost. So it depends on the individual's salary.
Okay. Have medical costs been captured through their budget historically?
They have.
Okay. I guess the other issue here relates to the DPW, who do work at the golf course, but they don't appear to be reimbursed for their labor costs. Now, if DPW labor costs within their own budget is covered by town taxes, and they do work for 3 weeks every year at the golf course, 120 hours at whatever the going rate is, that doesn't appear to be charged back for them. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, if the water enterprise fund, if there's a water main break and DPW has to go fix whatever, how are those labor charges handled?
They're not. So most people,
They're not?
they're not.
So they're not charged back?
No.
They used to be.
Well, there's not anymore that I'm aware of. I don't know any time that we've done chargebacks from water to DPW. So it's because we have a very small crew. Obviously, so for everybody that understands, our DPW size crew, including water and sewer, are 10 individuals, and one of those individuals are our DPW director, Mr. Menard. So with such a small crew, it's very difficult to move about and do business. If we have a large water main break, it's very difficult to only have a couple of guys working on that water main break. We call in all the staff and we get on that water main break because we have such a small crew. Going backwards, we shouldn't really be talking about water because we're on a golf article, so I'll get back to the topic of this one. kind of same thing applies and always has applied in the town, where we're a small town and we're all here to do the right thing for the community. And I know that you and certain other folks have taken the opinion that at the golf course, we shouldn't be over there doing anything to help out the golf course, and I don't think that's been the position of most people in the town.
That's not my position either, Mr. Gaspar. My position, I get why you're using DPW, because you don't have to go out to bid, you don't have to pay prevailing wage, what have you. It makes sense. It saves money. My issue is, that's taxpayer money. That's all. It's an enterprise fund, and it isn't entirely operating like one. That's why I brought in the whole water thing. You know, you got 3 enterprise funds, and one of them seems to be getting an awful lot of more consideration than others say. That's my only complaint here, with, beside it not being very well run, is, you know, there's taxpayer money going in here, at the very least through DPW. You know, you ask questions about DPW, and you get no answers. So that's all I needed to hear, that they are paying their own medical costs and they will be paying their own pension costs down the road. So thank you.
So when the board or the town decides to put indirect costs in the golf enterprise fund, the longer you wait, the higher that number's gonna be, right?
Sure.
I've always taken the position, and I know a lot of people have taken the position, that there was a lot of money borrowed against the golf course. I'm not a golfer, but the last thing I want to see is it fail, because if the golf course were to fail, that debt is coming back on all of us taxpayers. So I always viewed it as it's in our best interest to do as much as we can to help us get by that hurdle, right? Or get as close as we can, and whatever's in the kitty several years earlier, a few years earlier, you need to start capturing that cost, that indirect cost. So there is coming a time where we should be capturing that. I think the debt is 2027.
Correct.
It expires on the golf course. So we're quickly approaching that time, and I just brought it up this year that we will be having people retiring out, and you need to start capturing some of those costs for indirect costs for pensions, because it's a whopper.
And historically, you know, whatever money has gone to the golf course from the taxpayer, honestly, it should be repaid. You know, there's a lot of talk about a clubhouse and this and that. Well, you know, let's settle up with the taxpayers in the town of Acushnet. Thank you.
Gail, just Ms. Rogers, one thing, we will, right, as Mr. Gasper said, once we pay off that mortgage in 2027, roughly half of that budget will come back to the town in the form of capital improvements and capital expenditures. So, you know, in 2027, we'll be looking at how to spend roughly $600,000 a year for the betterment of the town's capital needs.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 28, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 28 passes with opposition. Article 29, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money to operate the sewer enterprise fund as follows, as shown below. Reserve fund, $60,000. Salaries, $80,729. Operations and maintenance, $601,170. Debt service, $329,176, for a total of $1,071,075. And this to be raised as follows. Sewer revenues, $691,789. Sewer retained earnings, $389,176, for a total of $1,080,965. Or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to approve the sewer enterprise budget and to appropriate the sum of $1,071,075 for the sewer enterprise fund operations as follows. $681,899 to be raised from estimated sewer department receipts, $60,000 to be transferred from sewer retained earnings, and $329,176 to be transferred from the sewer betterments fund. Said sums to be allocated between salaries, expenses, debt service, and reserve of the sewer department for the fiscal period July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, inclusive as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second? Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 29, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 29 passes unanimously. Article 30, miscellaneous articles. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a transfer from free cash the sum of $20,000 to fund the Elders Community Service Program created in accordance with General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5K, and to provide that the hourly wage to be paid for services under this program is the applicable hourly minimum wage, or take any action thereon or in relation thereto. This senior tax work-off program is a very successful program that is designed to provide financial and social benefits to both senior homeowners and town government. This program is designed to assist seniors in mitigating the squeeze between increasing property values, property taxes, and a fixed income, providing a method to reduce their property taxes by up to $1,500. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote Article 30 as printed in the warrant and to fund said appropriation transfer from free cash the sum of $20,000.
Do I have a second? Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 30, raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 30 passes unanimously. Article 31, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from free cash the sum of $30,000 to fund the Youth Employment Service Program for the purpose of providing a payment for services rendered for the departments, boards, and committees of the municipality by resident youth. Said program shall be subject to the following conditions, in addition to any and all eligibility requirements promulgated by the Board of Selectmen after receiving the recommendations of the Recreation Commission Chair, DPW Superintendent, and the Chair of the Golf Management and Operational Committee. A, participation in the program shall be limited to residents of the town. B, participants shall receive compensation at a rate of $15 an hour for each hour of service rendered for a total not to exceed $4,000 in a calendar year. The treasurer tax collector shall comply with the wage, tax, and payroll deduction requirements of the State Department of Revenue and the Federal Internal Revenue Service. And E, program participants who meet the eligibility guidelines established for the program by the Board of Selectmen shall be selected in the program on a first-come, first-served basis, or take any other action thereof. This YES program, which stands for Youth Employment Service, is a new program designed to be a companion program to the very successful Senior Tax Work-Off program. It's designed to instill work ethic while providing financial and social benefits to resident youths. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote Article 31 as printed in the warrant and to fund said appropriation transfer from free cash the sum of $30,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Any discussion from the floor?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
when the Board of Selectmen, when we advanced this article,
Again, we mirrored it after the senior work-off program, but also a catalyst for this was several years ago. Many of you may or may not know that we were able to employ students from Old Colony to work with our, to work on our library. And then those young men ended up becoming full-time employees for the town and doing great work. And so we look at this program as an opportunity to essentially create a feeder system for our town government. Eventually, we're going to need people to work at the DPW. We're going to need people to work at the, the town facilities. So we think this is just a great program for town residents who would like to work for the town, learn about municipal service, and hopefully this will be a training ground for future employment and employees in the town.
Any further discussion?
Robert Rocha, 20 Nyes Lane. Two questions. First, this is for the FinCom. In the past, we've heard recommendation unanimously or 3-2. Just curious why that's not being stated clearly anymore.
Yes, sir. All of our recommendations have been unanimous as we went along.
And then to the question at hand, how does this fit into the recent union-based activity in town? How does this work in without causing any problems?
So I don't want to get too in-depth, Mr. Rocha, on newly formed unions, but this is a youth program for the schools, for the parks, and maybe some town hall employees for miscellaneous things that I guess nobody else wants to do, and for the park department and maybe the golf. So with that said, I'll just leave it at that. We're not trying to take away anybody else's job duties. I know that's been a claim that some people want to make. That's not what's going on here. It's basically the same thing as our senior program, but for kids.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, raise your yellow card. All those opposed? Article 31 passes unanimously. Article 32, see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash or otherwise provide for a payment of the sum of $100,000 to pay for costs associated with joining this employee health insurance purchasing group, Massachusetts Strategic Health Group, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. The town is seeking to join an employee health insurance purchasing group to save health insurance premiums. Under the current arrangement, the town has continued to have a negative premium to cost ratio as a result of many catastrophic cases. The town's present health insurance cost provider predicting large health insurance costs greater than 30%. The town's health insurance consultant has issued a request for quotes/proposals from other providers, including various group purchasing entities, to spread out future increases. The town is converting to purchasing through a group purchasing entity this fiscal year. This funding will be the town's initial contribution to the group's reserve trust fund. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote Article 32 is printed in the warrant and to fund said appropriation, transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor. Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 32, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 32 passes unanimously. Article 33. Earlier, we moved Article 13 to postpone until after Article 32 has been disposed of. Do I have a motion for Article 13?
Mr. Moderator, make a motion to postpone Article 13 indefinitely.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the floor? If not, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of postponing Article 13 indefinitely, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 13 is postponed indefinitely unanimously. Article 33, to see if the town will vote to fund the cost items contained for the first 2 years of a 3-year collective bargaining agreement, July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2025, between the Acushnet firefighters, Local 3281, IAFF, PFFM, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. The new collective bargaining agreement includes a salary adjustment of 0% in the first year, 2% in the second year, and 2% in the third year, with a signing bonus paid by ARPA funds. ARPA stands for the American Rescue Plan Act, $12,000. It also includes a realignment of the salary grid to reflect comparability and parity with the other towns' salary plans. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote Article 33 as printed in the warrant, and further to confirm all previous appropriations and other funds that were used to fund the first year cost item of the collective bargaining agreement.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor. Hearing none, put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 33, raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 33 passes unanimously. Article 34, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to file a home rule petition to continue the employment of Call Fire Deputy Chief beyond the mandatory retirement age, provided that the General Court may make clerical and editorial changes of form only to the bill unless the Board of Selectmen approves the amendments to the bill prior to enactment by the General Court, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to approve such amendments that are within the scope of the general public objectives of the petition, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. The language of the whole rule petition, I'll read it for you. It's an act authorizing the town of Acushnet to continue the employment of Call Deputy Fire Chief, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives and General Court assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows. Notwithstanding, excuse me, any general or special law to the contrary, the Call Fire Deputy Chief of the town of Acushnet may continue to serve in that position until reaching the date of his voluntary retirement or the date he's relieved of his duties by the town of Acushnet Board of Selectmen, whichever occurs first, provided, however, he is mentally and physically capable of performing the duties of his office. The Board of Selectmen may, at the town's own expense, require that said Call Fire Deputy Chief be examined annually by a physician designated by the town to determine such physical and mental capability to perform the duties of his office. Section 2, this act shall take effect upon its passage. State law mandates that call firefighters must retire at 65 years of age. It also provides for an exception to this mandate if the firefighter is physically and mentally able to continue to perform the duties of a firefighter. This home rule petition is the mechanism that cities and towns must use to access the exception to the mandatory retirement. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote Article 34 as printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second? Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor. Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? Article 34, all those opposed? Article 34 passes with opposition. Article 35. To see if the town will vote to approve the $500,000 indebtedness authorized by the Regional District School Committee of the Old Colony Regional Vocational Technical High School District to pay costs of a feasibility study relating to the possible renovation and/or construction of the district high school located at 476 North Avenue, Rochester, Massachusetts, including all costs incidental and related thereto, and to take any other action relative thereon or in relation thereto. The total amount appropriated by the regional district for this purpose is $1 million, which will be reduced to the extent of any grants received by the district from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. The district is using $500,000 of its reserves, as well as requesting town approval to borrow the remainder. Each community will have to approve the indebtedness. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town approves the $500,000 indebtedness authorized by the Regional District School Committee of the Old Colony Regional Vocational Technical High School District to pay for cost of a feasibility study relating to the possible renovation and/or construction of the district high school located at 476 North Avenue, Rochester, Massachusetts, including all costs incidental and related thereto. The total amount appropriated by the district for this purpose is $1 million, which will be reduced to the extent of any grants received by the district from the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. Aaron Polanski, Superintendent Director, Old Colony Regional Vocational Technical High School.
Welcome.
Thank you. Just for clarity's sake, in 2021, Old Colony submitted a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority for consideration to be entered into their grant program. We were approved, and in October of 2022, we were welcomed into the eligibility phase of that program. Throughout this process, we've been putting information online. We want all of our member towns to be aware that if you go to the Old Colony website and click on MSBA information, you can follow the process very closely. We feel that the transparency is extremely important as part of this process. Our building opened in 1975. We're housed within our original structure, and many of our systems have surpassed their useful life, straining the operating budget as maintenance costs are increasing dramatically as a percentage of our operating budget. The building is relatively unchanged from the 1970s and no longer serves the needs associated with current day vocational education. We've got great demand for an Old Colony education, nearly 300 applications for 140 spots in our freshman class each year. And what we're looking to do is consider expansion of our programming to include plumbing and HVAC, perhaps a few other programs. We are not asking this evening for the town of Acushnet to support an entire $500,000 indebtedness. What we are asking is that the town of Acushnet support a portion of that indebtedness. However, because we're a regional high school, we're required to ask permission anytime we incur debt from all 5 of our member towns. So the estimated portion for the town of Acushnet would be approximately $175,000 over a 5-year period of time. And that would be, again, spread out over a 5-year period of time. But for clarification, we wanted to make sure that people knew, A, what the estimated debt would be, and B, that it's only a portion of the $500,000. The other $500,000 has been put aside from our stabilization fund to Adult Colony. If there are any questions, I'd like to entertain them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 35, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 35 passes unanimously. Article 36, to see if the town will vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41C, to increase the gross receipts limit to $20,000 if single and $30,000 if married, excuse me, and increase the whole estate limit to $40,000 if single and $55,000 if married, to be effective for exemptions granted for any fiscal year beginning on or after July 1, 2023, or take any other action relative thereon or in relation thereto. The Board of Assessors is requesting that the town modifies the real estate exemption criteria for qualifying seniors 70 and older who own and occupy real property. The exemption would be changed by increasing the gross receipts and whole estate criteria. The criteria currently used was voted and accepted at the June 5, 1989 town meeting, Article 12. An increased number of seniors would benefit from this change, and the Board of Assessors voted 2-0 on 3/15/23 to submit this article. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote Article 36 as printed in the warrant. Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion from the floor. Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 36, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 36 passes unanimously. Excuse me. Article 37. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire all or a portion of the lands identified as the lots 14 and 15 on the Acushnet Assessors Map 3, and more particularly described in the deed recorded with the Bristol South Registry of Deeds in Book 1745, page 676, and to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, and/or borrow a sum of money to fund such acquisition and any and all costs incidental or related thereto, including without limitation, title investigations, closing costs, payment of a purchase deposit, attorney's fees and transfer expenses, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into any and all agreements and take any and all actions necessary or appropriate to carry out the foregoing transaction, or to take any other action relative thereon or in relation thereto. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, move that Article 37 be postponed indefinitely.
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommended postponing.
Any discussion from the floor? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of postponing Article 37 indefinitely? Those opposed? Article 37 is postponed indefinitely unanimously. Article 38. These are bylaw and zoning articles. To see if the town will vote to amend the bylaws of the town by deleting the current language of Article 1, Section 2.2, and inserting the following language, or take any other action thereon or in relation thereto. Article 1, Section 2.2 reads, "The annual election of officers shall be held on the fourth Tuesday in April, or at such other time as shall be determined by a vote of the town, or take any other action relative thereto." Currently, it reads, "The annual election of officers shall be held on the first Saturday following the annual town meeting, or at such other time as shall be determined by vote of the town." Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote Article 38 is printed in the warrant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends passage of this article.
Discussion.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make an amendment to that. I'd like to change the verbiage to read Article 1, Section 2.2, "The annual election of officers shall be held on the fourth Tuesday in April to commence in fiscal year 2025, or at such other time as shall be determined by a vote of the town, or take any other action relative thereto."
Do you have that in writing, Mr. Wood? You signed it? It's no different up here, folks.
Trust me, it's no different.
Mr. Moderator, can I suggest that it read July 1, 2025 instead of fiscal year 25? It's July 1, 24.
Fiscal year, no.
Fiscal year 25 is July 1, 2024.
Okay, that's fine. That's not.
Kicking the can down the road 2 years.
Beginning a certain day.
Yeah. Just mention the date. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to change this to read, if it's okay. We're going to amend Article 1, Section 2.2. Oh, I'm sorry. Effective July 1, 2024, Article 1, Section 2.2, the annual election of officers shall be held on the fourth Tuesday in April to commence in fiscal or at any other such time as shall be determined by a vote of the town or take any other action relative thereto.
Discussion. The motion before us is to amend the date that this election will change to July 1, 2024. Is there any other discussion?
Second, Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I wish to amend that to commence in July 2025.
Mr. Alcott, please. Well, you want July 1, 2025?
Yes, that because in the fiscal year 2000 like we're going into the next fiscal year, which will be we're in 23 and then 24. That's the school year, and that means that the voting would take place in 24. And we can't handle that at this time and it should be commencing on July 25.
The change was in July 24, so the voting for 24 would have already passed in April or May.
Yes.
So that means it wouldn't take effect until spring of 25,
Correct.
the way she has it.
Okay, that's the way it should be, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you've been
All
agreed.
right.
That's why they made it July 24th.
Okay, the motion before us, which has been seconded, is to make this change of the election effective July 1, 2024. Is there any further discussion? We're just voting on the amendment now.
Moderator, it's less about the dates, but I would just say that having one polling location, I think, is terrible for the town, and we should go back to at least have, something, the Council on Aging here, or having multiple polling locations.
I hear you.
Well, that's not under the scope of this article. Yes. All those in favor of this amendment, changing the date to July 1, 2024. All those opposed? The amendment passes with opposition. Now we're going to vote on the article. All those in favor of Article 38, please raise your yellow card. Those opposed? Article 38 passes with opposition. And now, by my book, we have no further business. Is there a motion to dissolve?
So moved.
Meeting dissolved.
Thank you all for coming tonight.